Good morning. You're watching Market Cafe with me, Shreyansi Singh and Snehi Shah. Over the next 1 hour or so, we will take you through all the news and updates across the globe and from India. But before we talk about the events to look at, let's also look at what we couldn't look away from. And Snehi, that would be the match. Did you watch it?
Absolutely, Shreyansi. Who would miss such a match? You know, even while commuting on the way home, my Hotstar was always on because so much was happening every minute and there was not a second that you could take away from the match. So let's talk about what happened yesterday. You can call it a beating, a thrashing, or simply a ruthless show by Team India as they dished out yet another powerful performance against Sri Lanka and beat them by a whopping 302 runs at the Wankhede Stadium yesterday. Now, with this outcome, which is their 7th win in as many matches, India became the first nation to qualify for the semi-finals. Half centuries from Virat Kohli, Shubman Gill and Shreyas Iyer took India to a daunting total of 357 for 8 after being invited to bat first. Now, that is something that caused a little worry amongst all spectators and all Indians alike, but we did manage to win somehow. Jasprit Bumrah, Mohammad Siraj and Mohammad Shami were the key wicket takers and ensured an early Sri Lankan collapse. Well, Shreyansi, I think the key part of the match was when Kohli's catch was dropped early and then what he went on to do after that was stellar. And even the bowlers, what they did when we went out to bowl and the continuous wickets, the very early collapse that we saw, a wrap up in 55 is a huge deal when it comes to something as big as the World Cup level. So, well, interesting stuff coming over there from the India-Sri Lanka match. We've moved on to the semi-finals. Let's see if our winning streak can continue. On the other hand, though, let's talk about the US markets then. Let's come back to the markets and let's talk about the global handover starting with the US. Stellar day in trade for the US, well, on the commentary that came in from the Fed. However, let's talk about the futures. First, let's touch upon a little bit. Nasdaq 100 futures slipped Thursday night after Apple issued its latest quarterly results in after-hours action. Remember, Apple fell 3% in trade yesterday after the iPhone maker issued a weak revenue outlook for the December quarter. However, Thursday's regular session saw a broad rally for stocks as Treasury yields retreated. The S&P 500 notched its best day since April, up 2%. Dow saw its best session since June with a 1.7% gain. Nasdaq too posted its best day since July, rising about 1.8%. What was key to note is the jobless claims data. Now, jobless claims rose to 217,000 for the week versus the estimate of 214,000. Labor costs fell by 0.8% in the third quarter versus expectations of 0.7%. Now, as of Thursday's close, stocks are on pace for a sizable weekly gain as investors grow hopeful that the Fed's rate hiking campaign is nearly over. Now, let's look at the indices on a weekly basis. The Dow is up 4.4% on pace for its best weekly performance since October last year. S&P 500 tracking for a 5% advance on the week. Nasdaq is also up 5.2%. Both are tracking for their best week since November last year. Also touching upon the very important US Treasury yields that saw a little cooling off yesterday. The 10-year yield on Thursday dropped after the Fed Reserve kept rates unchanged again. The yield on the benchmark 10-year Treasury dropped by around 11 bips at 4.678%. The 2-year Treasury was also was 1 basis point higher, in fact, at 4.9%. But well, the 10-year Treasury yield has cooled off. So, well, sea of green when it comes to the US. Let's quickly also go across and take a look at what the European markets did. And while I just refresh my screen with what Europe has done, Europe also looked largely positive when it comes to yesterday's trading session. DAX was up 1.5%, FTSE up 1.4%, CAC also up 1.8%, Stock 600, which is the pan-European index, also up 1.6%. Well, large sea of green, lots of positivity coming in from the global handover. Let's see what the spillover is going to be for our markets this morning. But Shreyansi, this is on the equities front, right? Take us through what commodities like oil have done yesterday.
Absolutely. So nothing like the mean feat that Mohammad Shami accomplished with those back-to-back 4 wickets that he got. But oil prices gained more than $2 a barrel, breaking a 3-day declining streak as risk appetite returned to financial markets a day after the US Federal Reserve kept benchmark interest rates on hold. Now, mind you, the Fed kept its benchmark interest rate unchanged in that 5.25 to 5.50 band. And investors will also be watching for developments in the Middle East, which have kept oil markets on the edge a little bit. But what are the key events that you're looking at?
Absolutely. Let's take a look at all the events that we've been tracking for you bright and early this Friday morning, and lots of events to take a look at. Let's start by looking at Qs then. For India, you've got the S&P Global Services Composite PMI's number coming in. For US, you've got the same, and for China, you've got the Caixin services as well as the composite PMI data coming out. It's going to be a data-heavy Friday, lots of action coming in, so keep an eye out for all of these data points as well. When it comes to global earnings, Apple has just reported its results, and you've also got Gartner that will be reporting its numbers today. When it comes to Nifty, then you've got Titan that is going to report its numbers today. Lots of action can be expected on the stock, so keep an eye out for that stock as well. And moving on, then when it comes to corporate action, you've got Godavari Power and Ispat. They will mull stock split of shares today, so keep an eye out for that. And also you've got Aeroflex Industries, and which will be in focus because the board plans the metal bellows project, so keep an eye out for that stock as well. And let's focus to the primary markets then. IPO action opening today. You've got the ESAF Small Finance Bank that will be opening for subscription today, so keep an eye out for all of these cues in today's trading session.
Right, absolutely. And switching gears to global news now, no relief for Palestinians in Gaza as Israel continues its offensive on the 28th day. The death toll has topped 9,000. Israeli forces have surrounded Gaza City and is pressing forward. Despite international pressure, Israel refuses to show any signs of a ceasefire. US Secretary Antony Blinken is set to visit Israel today to discuss concrete steps to minimize harm to Gaza civilians, even as Washington resists a ceasefire. Remember, this will be his third visit since the war started, and Republican-led US House of Representatives passes a bill providing $14.3 billion in aid to Israel, but linking it to domestic spending cuts.
Well, let's shift gears to some macro news now, taking cues from the Fed outcome. The Bank of England has also kept the rates unchanged for the second time in a row at 5.25%. Andrew Bailey, who's the governor of the Bank of England, ruled out chances of rate cuts ahead, stating it's too early to be thinking about rate cuts as of now.
Absolutely. And switching gears to earnings now, Apple reported its Q4 earnings, beating estimates led by better than expected services revenue. Now, when you look at their overall sales, that fell, and shares of the tech giant fell over 3% in extended trading after executives signaled the company may not return to growth in the holiday quarter.
Well, and Starbucks unveils plans to expand its global footprint to 55,000 stores by 2030. Now, CEO Narasimhan indicated that the coffee chain is also targeting cost savings of over $3 billion over the next 3 years.
And Sam Bankman, who once ran one of the world's biggest cryptocurrency exchanges, has been found guilty of fraud and money laundering at the end of a month-long trial in New York. Now, a jury found him guilty of all 7 criminal counts against him. Now, the FTX founder faces a maximum sentence of 115 years in prison.
Well, let's shift focus from money laundering to philanthropy then, completely switching gears. The It'll Give Hurun India Philanthropy List 2023 is out, and Shiv Nadar and family lead with an impressive 2,042 crore rupees donation. He retains his title as India's most generous philanthropist for the 3rd consecutive year. Notably, Nikhil Kamath emerged as the youngest philanthropist, giving 110 crore rupees, and Rohini Nilekani as India's most generous woman, donating 170 crore.
Well, that sounds like the perfect cue to slip into a short break. We'll see you on the other side.
Hi there, welcome back. You're watching Market Cafe. This is ET Now. Let's take stock of how the Asian markets have opened up this morning, and it's a sea of green when it comes to the Asian markets. They're all up at the end of this week, with investors awaiting a fresh round of data for more clues on the health of the services activity throughout the region. Now, Services Purchasing Managers Index data from major economies including China, India and Hong Kong, as we flagged off earlier, are set to be released throughout the day. It's a sea of green despite some negative factors coming in. We had the inflation data coming in from South Korea that showed consumer prices accelerated for the third straight month in October, with CPI rising 3.8% on a year-on-year basis. Remember, economists were expecting an increase of 3.6%, so it's a slight uptick from that expectation. Despite that, you can see a 1% uptick coming in on KOSPI this morning. Shifting focus to Australia, then Australia's September goods trade surplus narrowed to its lowest in 32 months according to official data. However, despite that, you can still see a 1.1% uptick coming in on the ASX 200 as well. Let's shift focus to Japan then and look at Nikkei, what Nikkei is doing. Nikkei also up 1.1% in trade as we speak. Well, we have to say that the global handover has come in really strong, spillover effect being seen in Asian markets as we speak. Ditto can be said for Hang Seng as well. Hang Seng also holding on to strong gains, 1.2% uptick coming in, 200 points up for Hang Seng as well. Well, lastly, let's take a look at Shanghai. Shanghai not doing much, pretty flat in trade. Now, this is the only index that is still flat, but holding on to gains nonetheless with an uptick of almost 0.5%. Now, when we look at back home yesterday, on the Nifty, we closed at 19,133. Let's take a look at what the implied opening is showing. 19,346, so quite a gap up showing on the implied open. Let's see how we open this morning, and let's see how our markets perform this morning.
So absolutely, so a strong handover coming in there. But welcome back. Thank you so much for staying tuned in. Let's switch gears to the pollution control panel's verdict coming in, and the centre has issued a ban on non-essential construction activities in Delhi NCR region after the city's air quality was recorded as severe. Now, entry to diesel-consuming truck have been banned in the city, and when you look at Delhi's air quality, that was also recorded in the poor to very poor category since the last 1 month. And amid this, firecrackers will also be banned during the Diwali season to control pollution. Now, all government as well as private primary schools have been declared shut for 2 days as pollution levels soar. Listen in to what Gopal Rai, who's the Delhi cabinet minister, had to say about this one.
अब इस देश के अंदर अगर हम दिल्ली की स्थिति को देखें तो दिल्ली में 200 से ज़्यादा अच्छे दिन इस साल के एयर क्वालिटी में रहे हैं। जहाँ तक ये 15 दिनों का सवाल है, इस 15 दिनों में जिस तरह का मौसम की स्थिति है, जो एक्सपर्ट्स की ओपिनियन है कि ये थोड़े क्रिटिकल हैं, और हमारी कोशिश ये है कि कैसे इस समय भी ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा जो सोर्सेज हैं, क्योंकि मौसम तो हमारे हाथ में नहीं है, लेकिन उन सोर्सेज को कैसे रिड्यूस किया जाए, उसको लेकर के हर तरह के जो अभियान हैं, जो इनिशिएटिव हैं, उसको सरकार ले रही है। ये हमारा निवेदन है कि पूरे सभी लोगों को मिलकर काम करना पड़ेगा, क्योंकि ये स्थिति पूरे नॉर्थ इंडिया के अंदर है। केंद्र सरकार को चुप्पी साध करके बैठने से बेहतर होगा कि उसको भी सक्रिय होना पड़ेगा, क्योंकि केंद्र सरकार, राज्य सरकारें मिल करके सामूहिक जब सक्रियता से प्रयास करेंगी तो हम उस लक्ष्य को ज्यादा हासिल कर पाएंगे।
Alright, let's shift gears then and let's talk about some earnings that came yesterday. And Tata Motors reported its second quarter numbers, where the top line has come in line with street estimates and margins have come slightly lower than expectations. Shrishti, who tracks the sector closely, is here to do all the number crunching. Shrishti, break down the numbers for us, please.
Well, yes, Tata Motors has come out with a decent trend this time around, though there was a slight miss onto the margin as well as the profit figure on the consolidated basis. But the big headline is definitely not the numbers, but the guidance raised by the company for their JLR division, where the company has gone ahead and raised their JLR EBIT margin guidance for FY24 to 8% now versus 6% plus earlier. And this should actually not come in as a surprise, because the Q1 FY24 performance, we had seen stellar performance by JLR front, an EBIT margin of 8.6%, which has now come down to 7.3%. So all in all, the company has to raise their margin guidance, but this definitely gives you a confidence of a strong performance continuing for the second half of the financial year as well, where the company also believes that the production and the wholesale volumes will improve in the second half. And not just that, their overall share of the JLR is expected to do quite well for the second half of the financial year. And when we talk about their India business, then the passenger vehicle and commercial vehicle EBITDA margins were actually a slight lower than what we were expecting at TT now. But nevertheless, the management is quite positive onto the festive sales as well as into the growth outlook with respect to the sales. And now let's talk about the number front. Onto the consolidated basis, we have seen a jump of around 3% on a quarter-on-quarter basis. EBITDA is almost flat. Onto the margin figure, we were expecting that number to be 13.2%, but the company clocked in 12.9% EBITDA margin this time around. But the profit has now come in at 3,783 crores, a slight miss on the profit figure as well. So all in all, a decent set coming in from Tata Motors this time. But the company is quite confident for their JLR division specifically, where they believe that the JLR EBIT margin of 8% over is sustainable in FY25 as well. The launch of the new Range Rover will be the next big thing for the company. JLR is in good shape and place, and the company has now shifted from managing the supply challenges to season the future of JLR. That's the commentary coming in from PB Balaji, Group CFO of Tata Motors. So that was about the earnings front. Back to you.
Well, thanks, Srishti. Sticking with earnings for now, Adani Enterprises posted a 66% drop in the second quarter profit, and that is on a sequential basis. Now, when you look at Q2 profit, that came in at about 227 crores versus nearly 674 crores in the previous quarter. Meanwhile, revenue fell 11.5% to 22,517. Let's listen in to what Yogeshender Singh, who's the Group CFO at Adani Enterprises, had to say.
Adani New Industries manufacturing ecosystem has produced India's first wafer. 2 gigawatt capacity of ingot and wafer is well within schedule to be commissioned by end of this financial year. Solar module manufacturing plant of MSEL has received commercial operations certificate from SECI. India's largest capacity onshore wind turbine generator, 5.2 megawatt, is now listed in a revised list of models and manufacturers. Post this listing, wind manufacturing division of ANIL has now started commercial operations. In Adani Airport Holding, airport portfolio is performing as expected. Half-yearly passenger number movements grew by 29% and are now tracking 85 million a year, with half-year's movement at 42.7 million. All 5 airports have started Digi Yatra, that is Mumbai, Ahmedabad, Lucknow, Guwahati and Jaipur. During the quarter, we added 2 new international airlines to our airport platform and introduced 9 international routes.
All right, that's the word coming in from the management at Adani Enterprises. But with that, we'll slip into a very short break on the show. When we come back, we'll talk about all the stocks that could be potential buzzers in today's trading session. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying tuned in. Let's switch gears to the futures and options roundup coming in. And for that, we have Ansh with us to take us through that data.
Sure. So as you can see in the chart as well, let's get the chart on the screen. Nifty gave a pullback in the previous session. However, as you can see in the chart, it seems to be retesting the support trend line from downside for the second time. This shows that it's taking resistance here. Now let's see what happened in F&O segment. Long buildup was seen in Nifty futures with open interest increasing by 2%, whereas on option front we saw active mild call buying at 19,200, indicating some traders expecting Nifty to climb to this level, and active put trading happening at 19,100, indicating good support here. But actual good support seems like more promising at the psychological level of 19,000. Now let's shift our focus to what FIS did. We are seeing FII's long percentage inching up for 6th consecutive session, which shows bulls getting up with stronger momentum. So in a nutshell, F&O data is not showing any strong signals in one particular direction. On chart-wise, it seems wait and watch situation to see if Nifty is able to climb over the resistance of 19,200 or not.
Right, we will keep an eye on that 19,200 level on the Nifty. But before we talk about potential buzzers in today's trading session, let's also take a look at the India strategy report that Morgan Stanley has come out with. It's an explanation for India's rich multiple. Now, they say that high multiples reflect greater confidence about the future, and India's upward growth cycle has the potential to produce strong earnings for the coming 3 to 4 years. They also say that the cost of capital or expected return is falling since the market is getting more confident about future cash flows. Such confident is about the bid, that is the bull market, but also about the structural changes that India has undergone over the past decade. Of course, now confidence can be rattled by a macro political incident. However, when multiples fall due to such reasons, the urge to buy will also go away. This is the word coming in from Morgan Stanley on their India strategy report. But Anush, let me come back to you, and let's also talk about all the stocks that could be, the beginners in today's trading session or could see a lot of activity. So take us through that list.
Right. So we'll go through the earnings actually which came post-market yesterday. We'll start with Container Corporation of India first. The company reports strong performance with revenue at 2,195 crore, reflecting a significant 10.5% increase here. PAT stands at 363 crore, showing a notable 23% growth. Additionally, company's EBITDA also is up by 8%. Despite of the strong performance, margins show a slight decrease from 25.5% to 25%. Kalpataru project records 19% increase in revenue. PAT is up by 4%, EBITDA up 6%, but margins same way has decreased from 9.2% to 8.2%. 361 demonstrate growth with revenue up by 9%. Operating profit is also going up by 5%. PAT has also risen by 7%. ARR AUM reaches 2,02,536 crore, which is up by 30.7% on year-on-year basis and 6.4% on quarter-on-quarter basis. The board has also approved interim dividend of 4 rupees per share. Suzlon Energy reports flat revenue from operations compared to previous years. Company's PAT demonstrate significant growth, jumping by 78%. Additionally, EBITDA is up by 32%. Margins have also improved from 11.8 to 15.8%. JK Lakshmi reports good performance with revenue up by 15%. PAT has also jumped by 53%. Additionally, EBITDA also up by 26%. Sales volume is also going up by from 25.3 lakh tons to 28.8 lakh tons. Furthermore, company has approved the capacity addition at existing grinding unit at Surat. Lastly, Ratnamani Metals will be in focus as the company has shown strong growth in its recent financial results with 26% increase in revenue and PAT jumping by 66%. So keep an eye on the stocks.
Well, thank you so much, Ansh, for joining us with that detailed roundup of stocks. We'll definitely be keeping an eye on those ones. But let's also switch gears to management commentary coming in. And the first one on our list is Godrej Properties. Now, they have a commentary which says that they're confident of achieving 20% growth over the next few years. And they also say that they can achieve 30,000 crore in sales in the next few years. Now, they're also saying that they can exceed pre-sales full year guidance of about 14,000 crores, and they're also on track to achieve cash collections to the tune of about 10,000 crores in financial year 24. When you look at Surma SGS, they're looking at a commentary coming in on their revenue, and they see it of coming in at 35% plus CAGR over the next 3 to 4 years. They're also expecting 45 to 50 crores of PLI incentives over the next 6 months. And in terms of their financial year 24 guidance, they're looking at a revenue margin of around 3,000 crores. And when you look at their margins, they're looking at 8.7 to about 9.2%. When you look at Sapphire Foods, they have on KFC operations, they're talking about holding operating margins near that 20% mark. And they're also saying that they will add to existing areas once EBITDA tops 20%. Now, they also look forward to doubling their store count in the next 3 years. So that is the word coming in from Sapphire Foods. When you look at Pizza Hut, they aim to double stores in the next 4 years. And they're also expecting their corporate costs to grow by 15 to 20% on a yearly basis. Now, revenue is also likely to grow 20 to 25%. So that's the word coming in for that one. But when you look at Dabur India, The commentary on growth is of 6% ex-beverages, driven by a 5% volume uptick. In fact, they're also aiming to achieve a year-end run rate of about 500 crores from their foods portfolio. Switching gears to Dr. Lal PathLabs now, and the guidance coming in is of gross margins of about 74 to 75%. When you look at their EBITDA margin figure, that is around that 26% mark. And in terms of other commentary coming in from Dr. Lal PathLabs, you're looking at them saying that the industry saw price hikes across the online and offline modes. In fact, they're talking about routine tests dropping and higher end tests rising in the second half of this year.
Absolutely. So, well, lots of management commentary coming in there. Lots of stocks to keep an eye out on as well. Also, another stock that will be in focus today is Titan, because it's all set to report its Q2 earnings today. Let's go across to Winnie to get what the street is penciling in for Titan. Winnie, good morning. Is it going to be a glittering second quarter for Titan this time?
Maybe we could, in Titan see a bit of a subduedness coming in, because this time the company has highlighted in its Q2 updates the impact coming in of Adhik Maas for them, as well as in terms of overall the festive season has moved from Q2 to Q3 this time. So obviously that festive demand was not there in Q2, so bit of a subduedness than normally what they would see during Q2. Now, revenues expected to see around a 19-20% growth on a year-on-year basis. We're expecting revenues at 10,375 crore rupees. In terms of the profits of the company also, we are expecting the profits to be a bit muted in terms of growth, around a 0.3% growth in terms of profits of the company. Margins expected to see a contraction of around 170 basis point, and that is expected to come in at around 12.32%. Now, overall, what's impacting the margins is also there was a higher base in the margins last time, and that was due to the studded inventory gains that they saw last time. Other than that, the higher consumer activations and promotions is something that could impact the margins of the company. What the company highlighted in its Q2 update is that the jewelry division, we are expecting a growth of 19%. Watches, wearables, Tanera as well as CaratLane is expected to see a good growth, outpace the company's growth as well. The smaller businesses, so obviously they'll grow at a faster rate as well, but those emerging businesses are expected to see a strong growth coming in. Eye care division also expected to see around a 12% growth. Let's keep an eye out on commentary coming in terms of demand outlook. Festive season has started, so in the month of October, how are the trends as of now shaping up for the company? That's important to watch out for. What is the product mix, studded ratio, how is that shaping up, and what is the sustainable volume growth they see coming in for the company are key factors to watch out for.
Well, thanks, Winnie. So that is the word coming in for Titan, but let's switch gears to Interglobe Aviation, and that one has been in focus on account of resignations. But looking at their Q2 earnings now, the airline is likely to post a weak set of numbers given the seasonality factor. Somit Sarkar is standing by with more details on the same.
Well, on sequential basis, if you say, it is expected to be a muted set of numbers from Indigo, but that is also because Q2 is generally seasonally weak for airline companies. On sequential basis, revenues are expected to be lower by around 12%. EBITDA adjusted for forex gains or losses is expected to drop by nearly 69%. Net loss, in fact, from a supernormal profit reported by the company in the previous quarter of more than 3,000 crore rupees. In this quarter, they are expected to report a loss of close to 660 crore rupees, and this clearly shows how inconsistent an airline company's earnings could be. Now, yields, which measure the average fare per passenger per kilometer, that is also expected to drop around 13% on a sequential basis. Now, given the fact that it is a seasonally weak quarter, we are going to see lower air traffic, lower yields and lower passenger load factor, which is also called as capacity utilization. This, coupled with higher oil prices, are expected to weigh on Indigo's earning in the second quarter. Now, Indigo also ran multiple discounts and offered to gain or protect their market share, which also could be weighing on the Indigo's earning in the second quarter. Now, more than the earnings, the key important things to watch out for from Indigo earnings or their conference call tomorrow post-market would be their capacity guidance for FY25. Along with this, what are the engine issues that they are facing, what is the additional cost that they are incurring due to change in their leasing model, and also how has been the demand and ticket prices in the festive season would be important to watch from Indigo earnings.
All right, thanks Somit for all of those details. Interglobe Aviation will be in focus on the back of that. Now, ESAF Small Finance Bank, the IPO for that will open for subscription today. Let's go across to Lisa for further details about this IPO. Lisa, take it away.
Right, ESAF FSB IPO will be opening today, and the last date for subscription will close on the 7th of November. The tentative date of listing is on 16th November. Well, talking about the IPO size, it will be around 463 crore. Out of that, the fresh issue will be around 390 crore, and the offer for sale, that part is quite small. It is at around 72 crore. The IPO price band, that is fixed at around 57 to 60 rupees per share, and the shareholding pattern of the promoters pre-issue right now, it's at around 74%. Post-issue, it will come to around 62%, and the implied market cap post-IPO, that will be ranging between 2,953 crore to 3,000 odd crore. Well, talking about the SFB a bit, it is they are targeting unbanked as well as underbanked customers, both in the rural as well as the semi-urban regions. And talking about their product mix, micro loans, that constitutes a large part of their books, of their asset book. Around 75% comes from micro loan, and retail loans also constitute around 16%. Well, they have around 700 outlets, around 581 ATMs across 21 states. So that's on ESAF IPO, SFB IPO. But also, let's take a look at what's the management commentary and outlook for the bank going forward.
For the last 7 years of our operation, as a bank also has witnessed a growth of around 38-39% on an AUM basis. So going forward, yes, we have plans of going a similar kind of growth. And the major growth drivers are, the unsecured loans, like, micro banking. And apart from the micro banking growth, we want to diversify our growth into 3-4 segments. One is gold loan, which is already at the 12 to 13% of my book is gold loans. And again, on the agriculture loans, also we are a rural and semi-urban focused bank. So there are a lot of opportunities of growth in agriculture, then MSME, then affordable housing, then vehicle financing. All those segments are our growth targets.
As the base increase, the percentage will come down, but the momentum will be there.
Well, that is the word coming in from the management at ESAF Small Finance Bank. That has also been in focus for the valuation picture. Let's switch gears now and go back to Lisa for a roundup of what the brokerages are saying. Lisa?
Right, let's look at what the brokerages are saying. On the big earnings, Tata Motors CLSA came out with their report, and they have maintained a buy with the target price of around 803. Now, this is on the back of JLR raising their margin guidance and also strong business momentum. Well, the key catalyst for the company, that remains the increase in production levels for JLR in H2, market share gains, as also the double-digit margin in the domestic PV business. Moving on to Morgan Stanley, on Aptus value, they have maintained overweight with the target price of around 350. They say the strong inline performance and also the disbursement as well as AUM, that remains strong for the company. CLSA also has come out with a report on Dabur, but they have cut the target price to rupees 609 from 643 earlier. They say that reversal of the festive sales impact in Q3 is likely, and the key catalyst for H2 remains winter as well as the festive season. Even Jefferies has maintained a hold with the target price of 600 on Dabur, and they say that management is also hopeful of the pickup going forward. And lastly, Jefferies has maintained a buy on Chola Finance with the target price of 1,350. They say that the strong growth in auto loans as well as new business AUM, that will drive the business going forward. With GNPA in most of the segments, that has fallen, and credit cost was also stable on quarter-on-quarter basis. So that's all what brokerages had to say on the companies reporting on their earnings.
Lisa, all of these stocks will be in focus on the back of their earnings and all of these brokerage calls as well. So thanks so much for taking us through that. With that, I'm afraid we're completely out of time on this edition of Market Cafe. But while we bid you goodbye, you don't go anywhere, because the market takes all the action ahead.